Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. In this video I want to talk about Spanish and French and which one of these languages you should learn, or if you want to learn both languages, which one is more difficult or easier to learn. So let's get into this video.
Hola, hola everyone! After successfully starting our Polyglot French bootcamp, I'm now adding a Spanish-only 30-day bootcamp starting on August 8th. Get access to live Spanish lessons with me, live chats to practice, and many more resources by signing up today at a discounted rate of 50% only this week. Yes, 50%. So take advantage and sign up now.
Alright, before we get into the comparison, I want to tell you guys about my personal story with Spanish and French. So I speak both languages fluently, and I want to tell you how I learned them and then also how they've helped me just like navigating career-wise, travel-wise, everything I do and what I'm currently doing actually, which is teaching. So let's go right into this. I first started learning French, that was in high school. I learned it for about 5 years in high school, I think. Then I continued to learn it also in my studies, in my bachelor studies, which was about 3-4 years. And when I learned French in school, it was mostly about literature. It was mostly reading, textbooks, things of that nature. So I didn't really learn how to speak it, you know, how most people don't learn it when they're in school. It wasn't really about acquiring colloquial language, how you would have a natural conversation with a French person, but it was more so learning literature, French linguistics. I had all of that, but I only learned how to speak French fluently when I actually moved to France for exchange year in Paris, and that's when I really learned how to speak it. And I made it my goal before moving that I wanted to absolutely have nothing to do with any Germans, Spanish people, anything other than French, because I wanted to learn French. In order to learn French, I knew that I had to make French friends. And that was the best thing I ever did, because right away I started joining different communities and looking for French friends, and then I actually made French friends and I learned so much with them, and I'm still up to date friends with them. And now Spanish I learned also for 2 years in high school. However, 2 years of course was not a lot. I then decided to take a gap year as an au pair in Spain right after high school. I learned the most Spanish. I became fluent after that year because I was living with a Spanish host family. That was a blessing, a complete blessing, because they only spoke Spanish. No English, no German, no nothing, just Spanish. And right out the gate when I arrived, I had to speak Spanish. I could not speak English or anything else, just Spanish. In the beginning, the first month, I would say it was a little bit hard. Well, it wasn't like just a little bit hard. It was hard because there were a lot of misunderstandings. The host mom would speak very fast and she wouldn't understand that I didn't understand sometimes. So she would tell me things and I would just not do them because I simply didn't understand what she was saying. And that generated a couple of misunderstandings here and there. But after that month, I'd say it was completely fine, and I just continued to learn and learn more. I also made Spanish friends right away. It was super easy, even easier than in France, because Spaniards in general, and then also Spanish speaking cultures like Latin American cultures are very open-minded. Most of the times they're very they like to be around people. They're very welcoming around also people they don't even know. So it was very easy to make friends in Spain, absolutely no problem. In France, on the other hand, it was more difficult. I made friends, so I learned a lot. I consider that I was fluent after 2 to 3 months because I was already speaking fluently and I was just lacking vocabulary that I didn't know yet. But I never had problems, or I was never stuck at a moment where I was like struggling to, you know, scramble my words together or anything. I would just ask my friends, what does this word mean that you're saying? I don't understand this and that. So the moment where you are comfortable enough to ask your way around, to ask the meanings of different words, I consider that being fluent. Because fluency doesn't mean that you know everything. It doesn't mean that you know every single word in every language. Even if your native language, you might not know every single word that is in the dictionary. So Being fluent means that you know how to ask, you feel comfortable expressing yourself, you feel comfortable expressing what you want to say. And if you're at that point, for me, you're fluent. I got to that point after 2 to 3 months, and then after, of course, 11 months and a year I was there, I was fluent. Now I want to tell you about how frequently I use both languages and what they've helped me with. French and Spanish have helped me tremendously career-wise, traveling-wise. Everywhere I go, I travel to usually, I either speak Spanish or French, because so many countries on every continent speak either Spanish or French. So it has helped me a lot getting around, meeting people who speak those languages, and also getting jobs where, for example, it's required that you speak French and Spanish. Most people just speak either or, but there are not that many people who are fluent in both languages. So if you're fluent in both languages, that's an absolute plus. Everywhere you go, if you speak French, that's a plus. If you speak Spanish, that's a plus. And if you speak it fluently, that's even more of a plus. And if you speak both, that's even a plus plus. So of course it has helped a lot. And now, as I teach both languages in my Polyglot Bootcamp, we started the French Bootcamp 2 weeks ago with French lessons, and then we're doing the Spanish Bootcamp this week. So now I have students in those bootcamps who want to learn both languages. So I always advise them starting with one first. And now I want to tell you which one I would start out with. It depends what kind of language you're starting out with, so what your native language is. If your native language is, for example, Italian, then I'd say it makes more sense to speak and start with Spanish. Because Italian and Spanish are very, very, very similar, more similar. Of course, all of them are Romance languages, but Italian and Spanish resemble each other way more than French and Italian. So I would say it's easier for an Italian to learn Spanish first. I've seen Italians who spent 3 months in Spain and they were speaking it like Spaniards, like they were fluent, because it's very similar. So I'd say go for the easier one first, which is then in this case Spanish, and then you can go for the more difficult one, which is French. If your native language is Portuguese, for example, then of course Spanish is also going to be easier for you, but also French, because French has a lot of nasal sounds just like in Portuguese. However, there's a huge difference between French and Spanish. Spanish, for the most part, is an easier language to learn, because Spanish is just like you write it, you pronounce it, it's easy to read, it's easy to pronounce. However, French not so much. French is difficult to pronounce. If your tongue, your mouth, your lips are not used to those French sounds, I, E, U, things like that sort of nature, and then also the nasal sounds, a lot of nasal sounds. If you're not used to that, you don't have that in your native language, then it's way more difficult to learn French and start learning French. So if you're a native English speaker, it is going to be more difficult to learn French first for you. Spanish, in that sense, is going to be a lot easier. That's why I always recommend starting with Spanish first and then going on to French if you want to. But Spanish is the easier language. So Spanish is easier in terms of pronunciation. Spanish is also easier in terms of grammar. It's quite a simple language actually. I always compare it to English, but French is complicated in grammar, complicated in pronunciation. Again, I would go with Spanish first. And overall, just mastering the French pronunciation is not as much of an easy task, because it is very particular. Their endings of the words are not pronounced. A lot of words have the same exact pronunciation, but they're written differently. They have different meanings. So mastering the French pronunciation is a thing. It's really a work of years, I'd say. So that's why I would always recommend learning Spanish first and then going on to French. So that's my final conclusion. If you want to take it or leave it, or if you have anything else to add, what is easier for you? What language do you want to learn? Spanish, French, both? Then let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.